All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining. Welcome to the YP Spotlight. This is the Southern Atlantic region. This is your first time joining us, because guess what? This is our first time having a YP Spotlight. Okay. Welcome to the first. I'm certainly excited about being the first Young Pastors Division Regional Director. That's awesome, awesome. And so we are moving ahead. I'm excited to be a part of the Young Pastors Division, led by our very own General Overseer, Winton Anderson. He is dope. He is on. We are ready to have a really, really good conversation. I'm excited to serve in this division under his great leadership. And so we're going to get to it in just a minute. I just have a few announcements. The Southern Atlantic region is made up of Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, and West Virginia. Our YP Emeritus, our very own regional bishop, is Bishop W. O'Shea Granger. He definitely has so much confidence and support with Young Pastors Division. And so he is also leading the way. This is the first region to have a regional director. And so I'm excited to be a part of this momentum, this YP momentum, this regional momentum, this full gospel momentum. And so listen, if you are joining us, this is streaming on Facebook. And guess what? It's also streaming on YouTube. All right. Just a little extra. All right. So if you are on, please share this with somebody. Share this with a young pastor that's in Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, or West Virginia. If you know a pastor that might be a young pastor in age, or maybe a young pastor in experience. Maybe you're over that 42 mark, but you may be 46 or 50, but this is your first time pastoring. And so maybe you're young in experience as it relates to being that senior pastor. Listen, send that to somebody, send it in their messenger, as well as maybe even share this on your social media outlets as well. Thank you so much for those who are joining. I see your comments, those who are coming in as well. Thank you so much for doing that as well. Listen, just a couple other things. If you are in Florida, as you're coming in, if you're in any of these states or any other states, can you let us know where you're viewing from? It would be awesome to connect with you. Also in Florida, we do have a state director. Okay. It is Pastor Abram Jones. we have a state director for you, okay? Georgia has a state director. That is Pastor Jonathan Richardson. We call each other cousins. You know, that's my cousin, right? Because we Richardsons, okay? He is dope. He's an awesome man of God. God sent us a prophet, right? And so he is certainly prophetic. He's also has an awesome ministry in Georgia as well. In South Carolina, our state director is Pastor Artis Buford. He is the interim state overseer for South Carolina as well. So he has a dual role right now. And so we're just so excited for his contribution right now and his contribution in YP. I am sure he is going to be looking to offload that to a rising star in South Carolina. Okay. So there is some opportunity for those who have been faithful to full gospel, faithful within our fellowship, certainly for growth. There is room for everybody. I promise there is room for you. Okay. North Carolina. All right. I'm the interim. I'm definitely, okay, looking for some help in North Carolina for YP. Okay. As a regional, I do have to fill in for North Carolina. And so that's just what it is. And so I'm definitely looking for some help there. Virginia State Director is going to be announced very, very soon. We have some names that are being floated around. So listen, Virginia, if that's you, a state director is coming soon. And then also in West Virginia, it's vacant right now. But listen, we are building this region. We're not just building the region, we're building the other states as well. We have other state directors in Louisiana as well. And so other states, other regions are also blossoming. And so we are moving ahead. If you want to be a part, listen, just connect with us. This last announcement before we bring on General Overseer Winton Anderson is follow us on Instagram. If you're on Facebook as well, you can follow us at YP, I think it's YP Momentum. Okay. And I'll make sure that I share that on my Facebook page. On Instagram, the Southern Atlantic Region YP is Full Gospel YP.SAR. If you want to follow our division, that is Full Gospel YP. Now, if you go on IG, you can put in Full Gospel YP. You'll see Florida, you'll see Georgia, you'll see North Carolina, right? Because we keep that same momentum there. And then also our international is FGBCF. INTL. Please follow our international IG page as well. Again, we're glad to have you on. Thank you so much for joining us. I see everyone. All right, we got folks from the Sunshine State. That's Florida. South Carolina is here. North Carolina is here. Thank you so much. I even see Louisiana in the house. Bishop Pierce is on. Edward Pierce, I see you. Thank you so much for joining us as well. Some pastors on. Hey, Pastor Owens. And so many of you. Virginia is in the house. Florida is present. Louisiana, again, is in the house. Thank y'all so much for joining in. So listen, let's bring on this awesome, awesome man of God, General Overseer Winton Anderson, who is the General Overseer of Young Pastors Division. Let's bring him on right now. Let's see. Are we ready? All right.
All right. What's going on, Pastor B?
How you doing?
I am good. Hopefully you are well, and hopefully everybody who is on is doing well. I see some of our people are on tonight, so it's good to see.
It's good to see. I mean, this is awesome time. The dog want to get on.
Listen, the dog better hush.
I know that's right. All good. So listen, we know that you are a pastor. We know that you are general overseer of Young Pastors Division. But listen, somebody wants to know about Winton, right? Tell us where you're from. Tell us a little bit about you. Tell us a little bit maybe about your education and maybe even some, I know you're bivocational. So tell us a little bit about you, your career and that sort of thing. We just want to.
Awesome. So I always tell people Southern boy, but Bay raised. And so I grew up in California in the Bay Area, and grew up pretty much between the South and the West Coast. And so that's a little bit of kind of the makeup of who I am in terms of geographical locations. But at heart, I'm just a boy from the South that loves to cook. I appreciate good cooking, and I do some myself. Ministry also, of course. I'm also a higher education professional. And of course, came up the way many of us came up. I think the only thing I did not do in church is usher.
Okay.
I have not ushered, but I could be an usher. I just want to put that out there, but because I know the signs and everything, but I have not. I think that's the only thing that I have not necessarily done in church. So a church boy at heart, and I think that's kind of, but also kind of.
So would you be one of those ushers that had your hand behind your back? Would you be one of those ushers? Like what kind of usher would you be?
I think I'm the usher. I'm probably low key. I'm probably the one that would accidentally let people in at the wrong time. But when it time came to march, I'm in there. See, We Are Soldiers. I'm that.
On.
I'm ready.
Come on.
I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm ready. Right. And don't cut no corners.
All right. Good deal. Okay. So family life. I know you're married. Let's tell us a little bit about your family as well.
Absolutely. So I am married. Lady Andrietta Anderson, she has a whole brand. She wins and all of that, but it's also it's a motto and something she lives by. We met in college, so kind of college sweethearts is what you could call it. And then, of course, to that union, 2 beautiful children were added. And so my daughter Olivia will be 10 tomorrow. And my son Jameson just turned 4. So so we got a lot going on. We got a dog named Bo, and we got a lot going on.
Yeah, and Bo said, "What's up?" So we good. We good. Cool deal. So you met in college. Here's a question: when you were in college, were you already preaching? Like, did she know that she was going to get into First Lady? Like, did she know that?
So, my first love, and I tell people this all the time, my first love is music. So I was a minister of music when we met.
Okay.
So she knew, because I directed the gospel choir at the time at LSU, and she was in gospel choir. I was one of the directors there. And I was the minister of music at a church here in Louisiana also. And so she knew music, but I don't believe that she thought I was going to preach.
Okay. Yeah, okay. And see, and the reason why I'm asking these questions, right, is because we have people watching who, might be in that situation, right? Who actually, how did y'all transition that? What was her response, right?
That's
because there might be someone who actually met maybe their girlfriend, maybe they're not even married yet, and they are now pastoring, that wasn't a part of the deal.
That's right.
So, that's why I mentioned that. I know that we have ministry, we have all of those things, but we also have family life, right? We have
that's right.
Those things that we have to manage as well. We have to manage careers, we have to manage all those things. And that also leads up to our conversation, right? Because in order to team building and collaboration, my goodness, all of the things that we have to manage as well is a part of that, right? And so we can talk about that. So here is a question that I have as it relates to team building.
All right.
What is your number one principle that you use? Just one, because I know you probably have a many, right? But one principle that you use when building a team.
I look at placement, and I think number one off top, where do people fit? Not where do I want them, where do they fit? And I believe placement is a large part of that battle. Like, right, if you can figure out, it's not good enough to have a room full of people. All you did was invite company. If all you got is a room full of people, all you got is company, right? But it's when you properly place people and when you bring people to the table who have something. So that's my number one go-to is that.
Wow.
I know why I'm calling you, long story short.
Right, right. So,
Excuse
so
me.
it's not about how long you've known a person. It's not about how long a person has been around. It's not longevity,
Not at all.
because I think many times many people deal with longevity. And usually longevity is the number one rule where they've been with me a long time.
But
And
unqualified, right? Been with
ooh,
you, but don't know how to effectively talk to people. Been with you, but possibly not even picked up your heart yet.
wow, wow. Been with you, but too familiar.
Too familiar.
Too familiar, right? And then I think also as leaders, we evolve, right? We learn, we evolve. The leader I was 4 years ago, I am not that leader today, right? And so having people who know me versus having people who actually can identify the shifts,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
That is so important. And so let's go to YP,
All
right?
right,
And
let's
so,
do it.
right, we go to YP division. So you've been doing this for 2 years. Oh my God, 2 years,
2
right?
years.
So when you started, you had, what did you have? What did you start with? Let's
I
start there.
had I knew that I had a success, somebody who had just kind of came before me.
Right.
And he had built a certain type of kind of way that he wanted to make sure that he built young pastors.
Yes.
But what we laughed about when I talked to him on the phone one day was that I did not have a blueprint. I didn't have a manual. I didn't have some plan that had been passed over. I literally had a calling or an assignment. And while I knew the vision of our presiding bishop,
Yes.
I didn't know the path of this division.
Okay. Okay. And sometimes that happens, right? We're given an assignment, right? Many of us have even accepted churches, right? Where they asked us in the interview, what's your vision for the church? And the question is, well, what's y'all vision for the church?
What?
Because you're already here, right? Like what's your vision? And so sometimes we have accepted, they have accepted us, but then at the same time, we gotta figure out this vision, like where
Yeah,
are we going to go
yeah.
together, right? And so okay, so you came in, didn't really know how it was going to morph. Did you see what you see now? Did you see then what it is now?
I didn't see it. I saw something,
Yeah.
but I didn't see this. I'll be
Okay.
honest with you. And I think most people don't realize that even how that came to be about is that I had been kind of working behind the scenes,
Yes.
but I was not necessarily the original person for this selection. And so
Wow.
that was kind of, I was prepared to really play second. That's what I was
Wow.
prepared to do.
Wow.
And then the call came to be first, and
Wow.
that was a whole different plan.
Now, see, if Pastor Jonathan Richardson was on here, he would have that prophetic word. He would tell somebody right now, "Ha, you was planning to be second,
You were planning
right? But you're about to be first,
but
okay?
you're about to be first, and we will go up right there.
Right now, okay? All right, all right. So when you had to select different people, let's talk about this team building piece, right? You had to build a team. You had to come on. We got a testimony. I was prepared to be
Come
second.
on.
Come on. Wow. Okay.
Mess around and take us up.
Woo! Come on, wait. We gotta go. We gotta talk about team building. Okay. So when you had to put through and think through a team and a selection, I'm so glad I was on the list. Praise God. Thank you, Jesus. I'm glad. But what were some of the things that obviously placement was one? And I want to say this because I've watched you, I've been intimately involved in your process. I know that this is a gift of yours. Okay. Like you know how to build a team.
Yeah.
I mean, where you got it from, we don't know, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But God has gifted you with the ability to build not just a team that's a team of followers, okay? But God has gifted you with an ability to take very strong personalities, very strong giftings
Yes.
and leaders,
Yes.
and at the same time,
Yes.
we all work together, right? And so let's talk through maybe something that you can share about your process to help somebody build teams.
Okay. First things first, I think timing is everything, right? Like I
Mhm.
think you could have the right person, but possibly the wrong season. So I think I
Mm.
had to, I hate to over spiritualize it, but it really is spiritual. The first thing I had to do was really pray about timing because there were some people, I'll be honest with you, there were some people that God showed me for later, but not for building. They
Ah,
would be for like maintenance or sustaining once it got strong. And
okay.
let me say that to somebody tonight that's watching. The reality is maybe you are misplacing, maybe it's the right person, but it's the wrong time. And
Ooh.
if you're not careful, you'll ixnay that person completely, not realizing that the Lord wasn't necessarily saying no. He's just saying not now for them, right?
Wow. Let's go back to something though you said the right person for maintenance, but not the right person for building.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Yeah.
so that's interesting because when I think of building, obviously, and for those who may not know, I have a career in construction management, so I understand building. Okay, and there are those who are able to get dirty. There are those who are able to visualize in a building what it's going to look like when there is nothing there, right? And so those type of people have this type of creative mindset that is able to take materials, literally steel, concrete, and they're able to visualize
Yeah.
and actually build what they see, but they're not afraid to get their hands dirty. They're not afraid to roll up their sleeves. They're not afraid to tear it down if they have to, because sometimes those who are maintainers have a problem with reconstruction, right? And so help us understand when you're looking at builders versus maintainers, were there a couple characteristics that you were looking for, or that you consider? And again, I'm trying to help, we're trying to help leaders across the board, right? So even if you're in business, this will help you.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
not just church, right?
Yeah.
Although we can apply it to church.
Yeah.
This is business, this is entrepreneurial, this is the second job, the third job, maybe we
Yeah.
got three jobs, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Whatever it is. So
Yeah.
let us know those characteristics that define a person as a builder versus a maintainer. Can you
That's
help us?
good. Absolutely. So a builder doesn't often get frustrated in the initial. I pay attention to people's initial reactions. So I'll
Mm,
give you an example, and this is a really good one actually. So when you and I would talk to people, and we would tell them, they'd ask us, "Hey, where's the list of blah 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 blah, and where is the da 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 da?" And we would say, "We don't have none of that."
right.
And then a builder is motivated when they start with nothing.
Mhm,
But a
mhm.
maintainer is off put, right? They're put off when they don't have anything to start with.
Yeah.
I think the builders also are not people who look for immediate gratification,
Mhm.
but they take pride in small victories, right?
Wow. Mhm.
And maintenance management or sustaining usually looks for those big wins. But when
Okay.
you're a builder, you learn how to celebrate the small wins. And then builders usually will not make complaining the majority of their conversation, right?
Wow.
Um, but instead, they will welcome. You'll be able to hear a builder in their verbiage and their language.
Mhm, mhm.
I think there is something great about both ends of that. But I think the builder's anointing is a lot different than the maintenance anointing of sorts.
Okay. Okay. That's good. That's good. That's good. So when you were building this team, right? And you had your initial group. We started out with, how many did we have?
We had an admin,
We had an admin.
and we
Shout out Ty. Woo
Ty
woo.
Chrissy Blue,
Come
aka
on,
Chrissy Blue.
Chrissy.
um, and I think we initially asked like 4 or 5 people,
Right.
and then we got some more recommendations for more individuals. And I think we've never had less than 7 after that.
Right, 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 right.
And
Now, here is a question, because I think sometimes people also get discouraged by, or maybe not discouraged, don't think about the numbers, right? How
yeah,
many people to put on a team.
yeah,
Sometimes we cool with just us and 2 of our friends,
yes,
right? Right? But 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 let's talk about that numbers, right? Because we had the vision, right? I want to say this man of God put together an awesome vision. Okay,
yeah,
so there wasn't a lack of vision. I want to point that out, because
yeah,
sometimes people
yeah,
have a lack of vision, but they want people to read their minds. That's not what we're
yes,
talking about here, right? This is,
yes,
we did have a vision. We did have phases that we were kind of looking at. We did try to put together a timeline when we were going to try to roll out these
yes,
phases, right?
yes,
We did do that. But we did not have task lists in the beginning,
right,
list, right? And I don't think that we manage our team still that way. You don't manage
right,
that way with
right.
checklists,
No,
right? It's
no.
more about responsibility,
There we
right?
go.
And so you were not afraid to build a larger team. And tell me why. What was your thought on expansion versus keeping it selective?
This is good. So I believe that when you are a secure leader, you welcome expansion.
The
Uh,
prophet is on, by the way. The prophet
oh,
is
is he on? Is he
hey,
on?
hey.
Tell him watch carefully. Tell him watch carefully. Uh, insecure leaders usually will keep a really really small team because they like to keep it kind of people who are like minded. And when I say like minded, I mean pretty much yes people, right? But when
Mhm.
you're secure, you realize that one is too small of a number to accomplish greatness, but then even larger than that,
Right.
you realize that you can't do this work alone. And let me just say this: I think Pastor B, you and I had so many conversations. I'm trying to be mindful of my wording. You and I had so many conversations about this, but I
Right.
believed. Remember, I told you that the secret sauce to YP was going to be if we could be top heavy in relational leaders.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
Do you know how many people when I was up and coming, and when I say that I mean like when I was in the trenches behind working for YAD, do you know how many people I would pass in the hallway that would not open their mouth and speak?
Wow.
Because they didn't know who I was. And
Right.
so I remember how small in that moment, that you would feel. And
Right.
I vowed that I would never be the person, nor would I lead people who would treat people like that. And so if you notice, one of the number one things that people compliment us on is what?
Oh yeah, yeah. Like we're approachable. You could talk to us anytime. You can call us. You could check in. You could text us. We're gonna talk to them in the hallway.
All of that, you don't have
All
to
of
talk
that.
to my
Yeah.
secretary,
Right.
we good.
Right. Yep. 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 Absolutely. And I think also you're right. All of our council, all of our state directors are very relational, right? Because this is that moment where we're building. So you have to have this relational. Elder Martha Cotton is very relational. She
Yes,
loves people.
absolutely.
She has all of these events that she does outside of church as
Absolutely.
well, right? And so she is connected and has this ability to draw people in and all of these ideas. And so you're right, right? You're right. And I think sometimes sometimes people only go for intellect
Yes.
and technical,
Yes.
but not necessarily relational.
Not relational.
Not relational. Wow.
And so
Wow.
you end up right with I mean, You get what you
Yes.
get. You get somebody who knows the systems, they know the protocols, they know the procedures,
Yeah.
but they
Yeah.
don't love people. And how
Ooh.
can you do this work? How can we? Because here's the thing. Okay, I hope people are watching this tonight. Y'all, we need people.
Right.
We act like we don't. We say things, this society, we promote this isolation piece. But
Yeah.
everybody, if you're gonna have vision, you need
Yes.
people, period.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so I realized the only way we were gonna get people is that we love people genuinely. So
Yeah.
it's not a pull or a push for any
Right.
of our council members or our state directors, because we create an atmosphere of genuine fellowship, right?
Yeah. And I think also there was something that we were very intentional, all of us were very intentional, is making sure that we maintain the full gospel mantra of family.
That's good. That's good.
Right. So it wasn't just we creating something new and brand new.
No, no.
Actually, that spirit comes from founder presiding, throughout, right? So full gospel, we believe in family, right?
Absolutely.
And so we wanted to make sure that YP was family, right? Like, so we could talk about, and what we were also very intentional about was sometimes in our council meetings, it wasn't just get right to business. It was, and it is, how's everybody doing? How's the family?
Yeah, for
How's
real.
the ministry?
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Checking in. Hey, you good? Hadn't seen you on social. I know you're normally active. How's it going? Right. And so I think those types of things are also very important because many of our leaders are very busy. And when we're very busy, we tend to be heads down into whatever we're doing. Right. And so sometimes, even myself, oh my God, I appreciate all the texts, and Pastor Abram Jones, he does it all the time. Hey, checking in, sis. Pimbleton, checking in. How you doing? Right. Because sometimes I know I could get very heads down. I'm working, right? But this kind of is that piece. And when the team has this culture, it attracts the culture. And even if people are not in this culture, they fall in line with the culture that is set. And I want to encourage leaders as well who may be watching, who you're not as relational. Get some relational people around you on your team. You don't have to be always the relational one. But if you empower relational people on your team, then the mantra in your ministry or whatever still will be, that's a relational church.
That's right.
Right?
That's right. Leaders, staff your weaknesses. Staff
Yes.
your
Oh, staff
weaknesses.
your
Staff
weaknesses.
your
That's awesome.
weaknesses. Wherever you've
Um,
fallen short. Yeah, what we got?
Someone's asking, may I share on a gospel station website? Please share it. You can
Please
share it.
do.
It is public. You can absolutely share it. Anything that we have on these types of discussions, you are certainly welcome to share it. So yes, you can. Thank you so much for asking. Because this is a necessary discussion, and I'm so glad that you want to share it. So thank you so much. So you talked about we need people, because we're gonna talk about this real quick, because there's some things in your book. This is your second book,
Yeah.
Heart People. So if you don't have it, listen, you need to grab this book. He's going to tell us a little bit later how we can get his product. But this book. So there are a couple things that I noted, right? Because this book is relational. This is a relationship book, okay? Heart People, right? And there were 8 things that you mentioned. I believe it was in the very beginning of the book, right? And I found it so important, not just relationships that are personal, but also, again, it's heart people. You see that? Explained and accepted. All right. Thank you so much for the question. All right. And we'll come back to it, and he's going to tell you how you can buy it and all that kind of stuff toward the end. But in this book, it's talked about 8 principles, right? And one of them was define it, appraise it, set expectations, establish boundaries, be available. And we'll go through this in just a second. Provide affirmation, reciprocate. And then the last one, Was it support transitions? Support transitions, right? I can't understand my own handwriting. Survive transitions. That was the last one, okay? And so let's just look at this, because I think that in team building, these make so much sense. Define it, appraise it. Can you talk about appraising it?
Absolutely. So when we talk about appraisal, we have to ask ourselves how much is something worth. And if you remember, in the process of appraising, I used to watch a show called Antiques Roadshow, right? And the people
Okay.
used to bring all their stuff from everywhere, and they would bring it into this major coliseum. And in the coliseum, there were appraisers, and it
Okay.
was interesting because the people who always brought the stuff always ended up valuing it from a different lens. And
Okay.
so the appraiser's job was to remove that person's heart from what they had in their hands so that they could give them a different view about what it was really worth. And that is
Ah,
what the art of relationship is about.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because
That's
once
good.
we appraise something, it is not what it means to you, but appraisal says what it means to me. And I think we would be better off in relationships if people approached with the standpoint of how much is this worth to me? Because let's be honest, when you
Yeah.
go into the jewelry store, all of the great stuff is locked up and the cheap stuff is out. And
Come
there's a reason for
on.
that, because you can put your hands all over the cheap stuff, but you ain't gonna put your hands all over the great stuff, right?
You're not gonna put your hands on it. You hear me? Sometimes they want your
They
license.
want it. They want it because it's what? Valuable.
Right.
It's been appraised as being
Ooh.
of value.
Wow.
So when you appraise relationships, you won't allow people to handle them any kind of way. And you won't
Right.
handle them any kind of way because it's
Right.
valuable to you.
Wow. Wow. That is so good. I just found that to be so interesting how you explained it in the book. I just shared it as well. Define it, appraise it. The next one is set expectations, right? Set expectations, right? In setting expectations, this is not the list, but this is responsibility, right? And I think that's different between telling someone what to do, how to do, versus saying, this is your area, right? The other one is establishing boundaries. Now, let's talk about that one real quick. Establishing boundaries. How do you establish boundaries in a team?
So I think first things first is communication, right? I think unfortunately and unfortunately, people who struggle with communication usually have a hard time on teams because
Mm,
the more teams communicate,
mhm.
the more likely they are to succeed. Therefore, if you notice, our model was over communicate,
Yes. Yes.
and it's over communicate
Yes.
so that we can create synergy, and it's through that communication that we have created a synergy, right? And
Mhm.
even when there's a hiccup in our
Right.
synergy, it's usually because we did not over communicate.
Yep, 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 yep. And that's so true. We've seen that even
We've
recently.
seen, that's
Right.
right, that's
Right.
right, that's right.
Right. Now this is good. This is good because the next one is be available, which we talked about, right? Provide affirmation. Now let's talk about this real quick,
Yeah.
because sometimes we will get a text from you out of the blue, and it may not have anything to do with in a group text. It may not have anything to do with an assignment. It may not have anything to do with what's happening on our team or what's happening in YP, but it's something like, hey leaders, we see you, we're here for you. If you need anything, let me know. You are important to the team. It could be all of these mantras, right? Or all of these particular messaging, right? And so I grew up, I grew up where if I didn't hear anything, I was good. But if somebody wanted to meet with me, I was in trouble. If I never heard, and I know some folks who grew up around the old school, right? They didn't encourage you like that, right? They didn't tell you you did good, we gonna pat you on the back, right? What they did was what they did was is that if I don't say anything, you're good. But if I do say something, we gotta talk because you made a mistake, right? And so in the very beginning of leadership for me, it was very hard to pay a compliment because I grew up that way. I grew up that if I didn't hear anything, I was good. And I thought that others were like that too. It's just because I grew up that way, and there are others. I see some hands lifted, right? There are others. Can I get a witness, right? And so, if there is a leader that grew up like that, right? Um, um, can you help us, encourage us? I do it now, thank God. How do we begin to provide that affirmation that we didn't necessarily be reared with, right?
This is good. So I think the first thing I would tell somebody who is struggling or maybe working through, I should say,
Yes.
affirming others is first affirm yourself.
Mm,
Because it's not strange that people who don't affirm others oftentimes don't even tell themselves congratulations when they
yeah.
accomplish something. They don't pat themselves on the back. They don't clap for themselves, right? And I think that's a honest struggle and challenge,
Mhm,
Pastor B, is that there are some who feel like just because it didn't happen for them,
mhm.
that it doesn't need to happen for others. And I've
Yeah.
seen it in leadership several times where people will master beating up the people, but
Mhm.
they'll never master patting the people on the back or
Wow.
celebrating them.
Right.
And so I think for that person, like you said, who's working through it, they have to first celebrate themselves, because honestly, doing anything outside of yourself seems unnatural, right? When
Yes.
it's not your root, and the root of what you are. So I
That's
literally have to tell myself congratulations sometimes for the
yeah.
things that I've accomplished, instead of doing that churchy, no, that's all God,
Right,
and
right,
they'd be
right.
like, Pastor, you preached an amazing sermon today. Da, 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 da. Oh, no, none of me, all of him. It sounds good, but then you get mad when don't nobody tell you nothing,
Yeah,
So
right.
so we got to be honest, I think, about that, and start kind of affirming yourself.
Okay, that's so good. That's so good. Now I want to turn a corner here just for a second. And I want to talk collaboration.
Cool.
Okay. Because obviously we can build teams, we can have that piece, but collaboration oftentimes is a bit deeper, right? Because collaboration is not necessarily internal,
Yeah.
collaboration is external, right?
Yeah.
I remember when I was growing up in a Baptist church in Sunrise, Louisiana. All right, we would have we would have certain Sundays where we would go to somebody else's church and
That's right.
fellowship with them,
That's right.
right? And then, or say, for example, when we had that Thanksgiving service right before Thanksgiving, maybe we would go to the pastor in the next city, and then the next year, he or she would come to us, right? Or we had different churches we would go to, and we would collaborate, or there would be this big community something, and all the pastors would come together,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And since then we have in ministry gotten away from collaboration,
Uh,
right? We see it in our cities, right? There's some cities that none of the pastors do anything with each other. It's I believe we have taken on the selfie. Let me take a picture of
let me get
myself.
my phone real quick.
Right? Instead of the group picture, right?
Yeah.
And we see the vision as well. But I see us turning a corner in ministry where collaboration
Yeah.
is the way we're gonna have to do ministry.
Yes.
So
Absolutely.
let's talk through that, because we can no longer, I believe, be an island.
Yeah. This, you know what? I think some of this was people getting hurt in the process, right? I think some
Mhm,
people got
mhm.
hurt and they
Yep.
just decided to call it quits and just do their own thing. But then there's a group of people who just achieved a certain level of success
Mm-hmm.
to what they perceive to be on their own. Uh, and I think after achieving that level of success, it's easy for your vision
Mm-hmm.
to kind of become exclusive and not inclusive, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Um, and
yeah.
so we normally see it because remember where the whole fellowship piece came from. That came from the little church.
It did. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that was the whole point. That came from
That
the
was the
small
point.
church.
You bring the potatoes.
There we go.
This
There we
one bring the
go.
chicken, and
we
then
w-
we
we
all
were
can eat.
sharing we were
Right,
sharing and
right, right.
remember we would recite the church covenant. We more engaged. We move from this place, right?
Come
Will
on,
as
we more
soon
over
as
engaged then.
possible unite
Right.
with some other church,
Some other
right?
church. Right.
So a lot of that stuff was in our upbringing.
Right.
But the small church did that. And here's what I'm saying. I'm not promoting and saying that a large church can't do it. What I'm saying is that when we got larger in number, there were some things we should have stayed small about. I
That's
think the
good.
fellowship aspect,
Yes.
when we saw the onset of mega churches, there was, particularly in the Black church, though, right? Because,
Right.
we kind of saw our other brothers and sisters kind of do it a different way where the small groups were birthed.
Right.
But
That's right.
you start doing the small groups in a Black church, everybody was scared. Now you got 10 churches out of
10
one
churches in
church.
one. Come
Uh-oh.
on.
So
Uh-oh.
so now the pastors were like, no, we ain't doing that, right?
Right.
So I think that there's a way to get back to hear this.
Yeah.
Sister churches. Do you remember when?
Yeah,
Do
I
you
remember
remember
sister
when?
churches. Yeah, I remember sister churches.
Every year you knew you were going
Right.
such and such to Mount Nebo on
Right.
second Sunday in February for the past. They were sister churches.
Right. And you would get excited about things like, oh, the men's choir going to be.
We're
They
gonna
sing.
show
Right.
out. We
Right.
showing out.
We
You
gonna show out.
you see a church van pull up from another church. You're excited. That stuff, that's
Right.
stuff we did.
Right. Exactly.
And stuff we've gotten away from. And it wasn't COVID. I'm here to
Yes.
bust up that myth. It wasn't
Right.
COVID.
It wasn't COVID.
People were antisocial before COVID.
Right. That's right.
And some pastors had problems with relationships,
Right.
with relationship building. So their churches adopted, because you can't
Yes.
sit up under somebody and not adopt something. The
Right.
churches took on the tone of
Right.
those leaders.
Right. Right. And this is not to say that every pastor
Nope.
in your city
Nope.
should be someone that you collaborate with, right?
No, because
I
we
think
all
that
know.
Right. We should still use wisdom and discernment and all those and understand, right? And have some reality, right? But at the same time, there is a real understanding, especially for small churches and even some medium-sized churches, that we can no longer survive in some cases just on tithes and offerings and what we can produce. We are going to, in order to impact our cities and our communities, we are going to have to join forces.
We got to join forces.
We do. There's some inner cities that have a serious crime issue. It is not going to be one church that solves that issue. It is going to be a number of churches and pastors and ministries, and the government and all of this stuff coming together and collaborating. And so, we do have to embrace the idea of collaboration.
Absolutely.
We gotta play nice in the sandbox.
It's the currency. It really is.
It is
our currency of the kingdom. Yeah. Like it's collaboration moving forward.
Yes.
Which is why we built our team model. Let's be honest. We wanted to do something a little different too. The division, while it is led by me, the reality is we built a team model.
Yes.
And it works because everyone around us, even if they aren't necessarily directly tied to the team, they acknowledged that model was built collaboratively.
It is, yeah.
And so the sharing, what is collaboration, Pastor B? It's the sharing of ideas and thoughts.
Right.
Not the sharing of egos, right?
Right.
But the
right.
But the sharing of ideas and bringing something to the table, and that's collaboration. You cannot collaborate with anybody that ain't bringing nothing to the table.
Absolutely. And this is another piece. Something else that I think that we have on our team is that if someone is unable to call or fill in, then it's communicated, and another person says, I got it. Right. And so it's not this idea of necessarily staying in my lane.
Yes.
It is the idea that we are here to help. And if your ball is dropping, then I'm going to help you pick it up,
That's good.
because we have a goal, and that goal overrides who
That's
gets the
right.
credit.
That's right.
Right. Because let me tell you something, you build, and this is just observation and experience with you, you build without consideration, really, of you personally getting the credit.
There we go.
You build without that. I mean, many times there are times where you could just say I, because you
Yes.
are the leader, you are
Yeah.
general overseer, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But you don't. You say we. You say, our council. You say, you include everybody, and I think that is also important. We did this,
Yeah.
the team did this, or the initiatives team
There we
took
go.
care of
There
this,
we go.
right? And so I think that is also so important, that it's not just what we put in place, it is also our linguistics,
That's
our
good. That's
language,
good. That's
right?
good.
I can listen to a person, and I can just listen to their conversation and tell what kind of person they
Me
are,
too. Me too.
what kind of leader they are. I don't have to sit under their leadership to know
To
what
know.
kind of leader. Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Because our language typically
Yeah.
communicates our heart,
That's right. That's
right?
right.
Right?
Words mean things. I mean, it, and I think another thing that I'm really, really proud of, by the way, that I probably should say tonight, is that before I listened to people's words, I watched their work.
Mm,
Before I listen to what folks could tell, because folks could tell you what they do all day long. Do you know how many people are running around saying they're visionaries, and there is nothing that they've touched that yet lives, right?
wow.
But when we talk about something else, we're talking about a major component, and that is that I studied who was coming on this team.
Yeah. Yeah.
I watched, and I asked that you all do the same with me.
Yes. Yeah.
I ask that you watch, right? So
Right.
that you'll know what I'm saying, and you can attest because you're in a slot, that requires you to know me. I think by now you've gotten my body language, right? By
Yeah. Yeah.
now
Yeah.
you've gotten my looks in terms of when I'm looking a certain way, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you've even gotten me in text message or email, right? You
Right.
you know
Right.
what that looks like. How important, let me ask you a question. How important is that when working with somebody? Because sometimes we work alongside of people and never study them. And
Right.
so we can misread, misinterpret, or sometimes think a certain thing, right? How
Right.
important was that for you personally, in the slot that you're in, right?
Right. I think personally, it was very important for me to be able to know that, so that you would not have to communicate to me what could come next. Right. I wanted to, as your first assistant, that's where I've started, and that's where I still am. Thank God. I'm glad I'm still here. Right. um, I wanted to make sure that you didn't have to tell me what you needed in a moment when a decision had to be made.
Yes.
And so
Wow.
I wanted to make sure that I could see the eyebrow raise and know
Yes.
we need to shift now.
Yeah.
We ain't gonna ask him no questions. Come on, let's
Right.
do this right here.
Right.
Take that down. That's not
Right.
working. I saw
Right.
the eyebrow go up, right?
Right.
Right. And so there's I think that was also important for me to be able to support you in a way, and to also help the team to know, because also what happens is people watch my language, and as well, and how I respond to you. Come on, Chrissy Blue, say eyebrow, because she know it too. She know that eyebrow too. Okay. Right. We know the eyebrow,
They
Chrissy.
know it. They know
Right.
it.
And so But also what happens is when I'm able to respond in the correct way and they see the eyebrow lower, then it also teaches the team how to respond when that happens. And so I think that's very important, and it has been very important for team dynamics.
Yeah.
It's been very important for us learning one another, because
Yeah.
if you think about it, this is a young team. It's a young team, right? Some of us have been on the team for 2 years. Others have been on the team for less than a year.
Yeah.
But most people can't tell who's been on the team on how long. And so I think that that is certainly a signal of how we communicate, not just with language, but also how we respond to one another. So
That's
that was
good.
very important as well.
That's good.
Yeah. Yeah. And then also I think as a first assistant to a high level leader, a high level, and I would also say that I'm me personally, I am also a high level leader,
That's
right?
right.
It is also important for us to be able to respond, make a decision, even if the decision wasn't the best decision. Sometimes you have to move and deal with, okay, next time we'll know.
That's right.
Right. And I think that many times people, even on teams, are afraid to move and make a mistake because of accountability.
That's right.
Right. And also, I think on the flip side of things, as the high level leader, we have to pivot. Come on, Chrissy, you know the word pivot.
Be a bit.
We have to also recognize when a person has made the best decision possible with time they had,
That's good.
and congratulate them
That's good.
for moving.
That's good.
They didn't just sit there and let the
That's
ball
good.
drop, right?
That's good.
And so I think that's also a part of that recognition,
Yeah.
that affirmation.
Yeah.
I saw what you did.
Yeah. And that's a big piece. You know, people
It's a huge
people
piece.
desire that, but also people need that, right?
Yes.
And being able to, much like you said, and then teaching our team or translating that to our team to say,
Yes.
be agile. The
Be
most valuable leaders are agile leaders, those who
yes.
can move when we have to. How many times has our plan pivoted? How many times has the way we thought something go not really go that way? How many times 2 minutes before something happens,
Right,
something
right,
else happens? How many
right,
times? And we've had to pivot.
right,
And if real leaders understand that if you're going to pivot, you can't afford to pout, right?
right.
And so for you and I, we had to learn, like, gain like face,
Game on.
because people are looking at you, and
Right,
particularly those you lead are going to take cues from you. And if they see you come unglued or undone, then they're coming unglued or undone. So I thank
right,
God for a first assistant and a couple of folks I can come unglued in front of just
right.
for a moment. And when I do that, they're like, all right, we gonna
Come on,
jump
let's
in.
go.
We can, like, come
Yeah.
on, let's go. We got to get in.
Right, right. And I think that's so important as well. So we are right at, when we almost an hour. This is an awesome conversation. We're gonna have to have you back, okay?
Okay.
And
All
do a
right. Look,
panel or
whenever,
something, right?
whenever.
Listen, we're gonna have to have you back on this particular session. Okay, so tell us how to get your book. This is
All
Heart
right.
People.
That's Hard People. So this is Hard People Explained and Accepted.
Yes.
And this is a book I wrote for head people and heart people. So if you
Mhm.
are a cerebral thinker and you're saying, listen, everything has to make sense here and everything got to go here, you're going to need this book. And
Yes.
in the opposite, if you're a person who says everything has to be here in my heart and it may not be here, you're going to need this book to better understand yourself too.
Absolutely.
Because usually you don't get two hard people that are together anyway, right? And so you
Yep.
got a balance of both. But anyway, it covers relationships, whether they are business whether they are family, whether they are intimate. We talk about all of that. That's one of my strong suits, is really dealing with relationships, right? But then on the flip side, so you can get that on Amazon. You can do Amazon. You can pick that up simply by typing in Heart People, and it should come up.
Okay.
And
Now
then,
you have, this is
go
your
ahead.
second book now. This is your
That's-
second book.
Yeah,
So
that's
your
the
first book is Dear Person in Transition.
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about that book.
So that book just kind of talks about, because that's kind of a passion of mine too, right? And it's interesting because people call me all the time when they are transitioning in one area of life or another. So I wrote that book because my personal journey, and we'll talk about it one day, but my personal journey found me somewhere always in the middle of transition. And so instead of getting upset about it, I kind of committed to understanding it. And once I understood it well enough that I could at least put it into words, then I did that. And so that first project is a meaningful project, right? It's a meaningful book. It is my first book, but it was certainly meaningful and vulnerable. I was very vulnerable in that book. And so that's an awesome read also. Not a long read. Neither one of them are long, but certainly effective. And might I add that I wrote those books to be the type of books that you would have to pick up again in your life. And so there are several people who tell me they are on time 6 over the last 5 years of Dear Person in Transition.
Wow.
So they can get that on Amazon too.
Okay, awesome. Well, listen, thank you so much, General Overseer. I know you're busy. You got family. We know Bo was barking and all of this other stuff. You have family, but we certainly thank you so much for taking the time out to talk about this conversation, team building and collaboration. I hope that it looks like those on have been blessed as well. Listen, you can share this. It's going to stay on Facebook as well, so you can watch it again. You can send it to somebody as well. But thank you so much, General Overseer, for your time. I really
thank you for having me. And look, I'm so proud of you. I will tell you in front of everybody, but I tell you all the time, you are doing amazing work, not just as the first assistant, but as the first regional director that we've ever had in this slot, and the state director. So see, y'all, she's wearing 3 different hats.
Man.
And one of the bishops called her overseer the other day. See, this is why, because she got 3. She got 3 hats, y'all. So y'all pray for her. Y'all pray for her.
Please. Thank y'all so much. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Have an amazing evening, and we'll talk soon.
We will. All right. Thank you. Listen, thank you all so much. We are going to close out on that note. Such an awesome man of God. Certainly, please follow him on Instagram, Winton R. Anderson. You can also follow me on Instagram. It's up, official Bianca J. Richardson. Don't forget to follow our IG pages. And listen, thank y'all so much for joining in. Please share this with somebody. Maybe even share this with your teams as well. I hope and I see that this has blessed so many. God bless you. Thank y'all so much. Listen, my bishop is on. My other bishop, Bishop Hilton, all the way from Cali. All right. Listen, we go all the way back. Bishop Edward Pierce, you have been on the whole time. Thank you so much for your encouragement. I see council members on, state directors on. I love y'all. J.L. Smith, God bless you. Pastor Davis, all right, as well as Elder Bass. God bless you. Thank y'all so much for joining. Again, share this with somebody. Have a wonderful night. We're going to be back here on the second Tuesday of every month with another YP Spotlight. Next month, we're going to our regional bishop. He is going to have wisdom for the young pastor. We cannot have this YP Spotlight without bringing on our regional bishop, Bishop W. O'Shea Granger. He is going to be on. You don't want to miss this discussion about wisdom to the young pastor. Is going to be dynamic. And so please join us next month as well. Second Tuesday, same time, same place. All right. Y'all have a wonderful night. God bless you.